So thank you very much. Really, really excited to be here and to meet the local community. And today I'm going to talk to you about OpenSearch, the open source path to search and observability. But before we start, I just want to get to know the folks here. So with a show of hands, how many have heard of OpenSearch Project? That's amazing. How many, don't leave the hands, how many use OpenSearch Project? That's brilliant. And how many know Elasticsearch, Elk Stack? Okay, very good. So we have a familiar audience. That's amazing. So let's a word about myself. So my name is Dr. Horovits, and this this picture is actually from last year here in Berlin, where we held the OpenSearch conference in Europe, the first one in Europe, first edition. So it was really exciting to be on stage as part of the community, and I hope that some of you at least were able to join when it was hosted in your hometown. I'll tell you more about OpenSearchCon later in the slides, but definitely highly recommended. You may say that I'm an evangelist for the OpenSearch open source project, and in general I'm a developer advocate at the AWS open source team. Yes, there is such a thing. We're dedicated solely to open source activities, and I myself am focused on OpenSearch and more broadly the open source observability project and ecosystem. So, you know, OpenTelemetry, Jaeger, Prometheus. If you have any questions or things like that, happy to discuss these as well. Outside my day job at AWS, I'm also a CNCF ambassador. So as I said, really exciting to be here. And if you have questions about the CNCF, I had interesting chats here about the KCDs, Kubernetes Community Days, and others. So or the stack or anything else. You saw the scary landscape that was shown before. Happy to answer any questions about that. And I also run the Open Observability Talks podcast. I even found one follower here on here, so you can ask him for recommendations. But if you're into open source, DevOps, observability, these topics, just check it out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And as you can see, you can find me everywhere at Horovits. My surname is my handle everywhere. It tells about my age, I guess. But these days, mostly about LinkedIn and Blue Sky, but also on Mastodon, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. I have my blog on Medium. So feel free to reach out after if you're shy of asking here. And let's talk about OpenSearch. And I want to start with a bit of the history for those who are less familiar. So OpenSearch started 4 years ago, back in early 2021, as a fork of Elasticsearch and Kibana, after these projects were relicensed off of open source. So they used to be Apache 2.0, and then they moved into a non-open source license, SSPL. And for obvious reasons, the community wanted to keep the projects open. They wanted the open source alternative for search, for observability. And credits to AWS. Back then I wasn't an AWS employee, but still saluting to the company for stepping up and taking on the very non-trivial work of forking. And we actually have people here that were involved hands-on with doing the fork. You can ask them, non-trivial whatsoever. So that's how it started. So it's actually the very last version of Elasticsearch and Kibana that were Apache 2.0 licensed back in the 7.10 or 7.10.2 to get the latest patches. And that was the origin of the fork. That was 4 years ago. And I'm glad to say that the project has come a long way in these past 4 years with 23 new releases of the project since then, over almost 130 different GitHub repos. We can see here that really the community has a lot of support and a lot of enthusiasm around it. And I guess what you can see in the numbers, I like it showing like 90 different companies that use OpenSearch, develop solutions over OpenSearch, professional services or whatnot that partnered with the project. I think it's nice to see. We can see 3,600 members on the public Slack. We can see 6,800 over in the forums. So over 1,000 contributors from, I think, over 30 organizations. So really nice to see the involvement in the community. And today, 4 years after the fork, today it's now the 4th ranked search engine on DB Engines. I actually pulled it from just last week, I think, when I prepared the slide deck, so it's pretty up to date, and it's pretty impressive to see on the search category. And actually, I love the fact that it's also green on these. I don't know, Chris, if you saw that, but like seeing the trending February and March trending upwards, so good vital signs that this thing is actually being used. And really the most exciting major update on the project is that back in September in Vienna during Open Source Summit, we announced that the OpenSearch project is moving to the Linux Foundation. So it started as a fork that AWS led, but now it's a foundational open source. In fact, there is a sub-foundation, the OpenSearch Software Foundation, a non-profit under the Linux Foundation that is tasked with having it fostering the open governance, open collaboration. That's the mission statement of this organization. So now it's independent, it's vendor neutral, so it's open grounds for others to take part. It has its own governing board, it has its own technical steering committee. Here are some logos from the governing board, other companies that are involved. You know, we're here in Germany, so everyone knows SAP, obviously, but other big names, Uber and others. These are the companies. Obviously, we want more. So if it's something that is of interest for your companies, whether you're end users or provide some sort of services or whatnot, we definitely want to more people involved, more companies involved. More people on the technical steering committee. We had very interesting discussions about expanding the technical steering committee. So that's our goal. Community is our greatest asset. So really a call for everyone who's interested. So I hope that I convinced you that it's interesting, that it's open source. And now let's talk about what it is. And actually, OpenSearch is a stack made out of several components. The most important one, or the central one, is obviously the OpenSearch core, which is what was originally Elasticsearch. That's the distributed, distributed search engine. At its core, it's based on Apache 𝐊𝐿𝐶𝐶 project. We have a 𝐊𝐿𝐶𝐶 maintainer here, so if you have any questions about 𝐊𝐿𝐶𝐶, he's the best guy to answer that. Essentially, a document storage where you can do the indexing capabilities, of course, and with built-in vector database. We'll touch a bit about that later, but just think about storing documents, think JSONs, and then being able to query based. Obviously, they contain potentially at least some unstructured textual data that you want to query about. It can also be other types of data, geospatial and others. That's the notion. And querying the data based on very simple, intuitive API. That's the core. Then on top of that, there's OpenSearch dashboards. That's like the open source data visualization front end through which you can run queries when you don't run API, when you want to do it in the UI fashion. You can create visualizations, dashboards, visualizing your data. You can also manage your data, manage your indices. You can do some sorts of things about collaboration related. So this is your place, one-stop shop for managing your OpenSearch. And there are additional components. There's the data prepper, lightweight data collector for the enrichment, transformation, aggregation, all of this pipeline to prepare the data for better better querying afterwards. And there are like client libraries and there are integrations. I'll touch upon them later, but that's in general, that's the stack. And I know Kubernetes folks, so yes, you can also deploy it on Kubernetes. You have your Helm chart, everything's okay if you so choose. So that's the stack. And let's talk about what, and so that's technical, but let's talk about what people use OpenSearch for. So these are the main use cases that we see. First, of course, is OpenSearch. That's search. Sorry, that's where the project originated from. Essentially, enterprise search, highly scalable, performant things that you do for your applications, your e-commerce sites, enterprises, and so on. That's the classic use case. It's also very widely used for log analytics and expanding into broader observability. So being able to, and again, I know Kubernetes is cloud native, so I'll spend more time about these use cases. Don't worry about that. But we also see growing demand for OpenSearch as a backend for AI ML powered applications with the powerful vector database that is there with integration with AI frameworks like 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐻, like Llama Index, and composing ML workflows. So that's another use case, and also security analytics, detecting, investigating, responding. These are the main use cases. I won't be able to cover all of these in this slot, but I definitely want to cover the first ones, which are very relevant for Kubernetes and cloud native audience. So let's dive right into these. And the first, as I said, search, because this is the origin and the classic, and also it explains the basic set of capabilities that OpenSearch provides. So just like any search engine, matching terms to the objects in your catalog, if you will. Definitely, I like the thinking of e-commerce sites because it helps visualize these things, and matching free text, unstructured data, of course, also structured data. We'll talk about it. Lexical searches, keyword matching based on term frequency and occurrence models, very elaborate models behind it. But the functionality is very intuitive because when you type in a text in your shopping site and you start typing it, and then you see relevant results based on that match. And not only do you see the results, you see them also sorted by how close they are in the match. So you get automatically the relevance or the distance, if you will, of the results from the origin. So that's another thing that you get out of the box. Another element that is mentioned here is faceting. So think about it again like you have the shopping, and you want to zoom in to your specific need in a specific material, specific color, specific style, or whatnot. You tick the boxes, and then immediately the results get narrowed down to your search terms. This is the faceting, the attributes that are relevant for you, supported out of the box. Fuzzy matching, okay? We start typing and we had the typo, some letter changed or dropped or something like that. We still want to see something relevant. So the distance also in terms of the mistyping, if you will. And the vector search, as I mentioned, that's more Gen AI related when the models represent unstructured data as vector embeddings. Then you want to check for the vector similarities or the vector distance. Proximity. So that's more on the vector database vector search. And by the way, an excellent talk, I'll mention that further later, but actually combining lexical and vector. There's a talk this Thursday. I'll mention it later, but stick around, and definitely interesting topic of how these actually can come together for more powerful combination. So that's search. And I want to switch to a demo because we heard a lot about it, but let's see how it goes. So I want to move into this one, and I want to show you. So we talked about the search. I wanted to show you this one, and as you'd expect, you see. This is the dashboard, the OpenSearch dashboards. Again, for those who know Kibana or things like that, it won't be anything out of the ordinary. But for an e-commerce site, being able to see the transactions per day, the breakdown into male, female, average sales price, average sold quantity, you can see the different elements. We can obviously zoom into the specific time frame. The time frame is determined here at the top, okay? So we can zoom in. Obviously, all the dashboard immediately gets updated to the relevant time frame. And then we can see the breakdown inside the graph, the overlay, women's shoes, men's shoes, and so on, very easily visualized. We can see here on a map view, for example, where it comes from and how many and so on. And I think that part is worth having a look. This is essentially the core component, okay? Documents, we talked about document store. So this is the raw data. This is in table format, but this is the raw JSON. And I hope that you can see in the size of the text, but essentially what you'd expect, you see here this is the currency, the customer details, first name, last name, gender, and so on. You can see the order details, date and price, and so on, and the product, lots of details. So all of these are bits of information that you can then query upon, you filter upon, and so on. If we look at the table format, it's very easy, for example, to see, and then you can zoom out. You can say, okay, I want to see only sales that were done on Saturday. Okay, so immediately, if I click here, it's a shortcut for just adding this filter here, day of week, Saturday, and you can immediately see. If I zoom in here, you can see that all the rest of the days disappeared, and we have only Saturday. Okay, so it's very easy to see. And of course, I can add more filters. I can check for, I don't know, city, name. And you see, I don't even need to remember the syntax. It's very easy to just select. And it gives me also the different values available. So I want to see the shopping on Saturday in New York. And then, again, all the dashboard zooms into that specific search. This is the built-in here. They even prepared inside the dashboard the filtering by manufacturer, category, quantity, and so on. So that's, in essence, what you get. And this is the e-commerce or the search use case. I want to go back to the slide. Let's see. Just a second. Let's do an extend. So I found this one. And let's talk about the other interesting use case, which is observability. Observability. So on the observability front, you can use OpenSearch, of course, to detect, to diagnose, to remedy issues in your system. It could be in your infrastructure. It could be in your application, depending on you. The core that most people know, obviously, is around log analytics. We can use the discover pane that you can see. Actually, I should have showed that in the demo as well. But again, for those who are familiar with Kibana and others, it will be intuitive. That's where you can see the raw logs, and you can analyze them as we saw before. You also have, of course, the dashboards UI that you can build visualizations, visualize your SLO type of dashboard monitoring and so on. And of course, you have other suite of tools like the log tail, log surround, log patterns, and so on. So this is on the log analytics side. And then you can query the data with the most powerful querying is, of course, writing the queries. You can use 𝐊𝐿𝐿 for those who are accustomed to 𝐊𝐿𝐿. You have also PPL query language that was added on top. I'll talk about PPL later. And actually something very nice, you can also have natural language queries that can be converted into PPL, which maybe lowers the barrier to entry for those who are less fluent with these query languages or query languages in general. It also plays very nicely with the cloud native ecosystem. Again, we're here in the cloud local CNCF chapter. So things such as OpenTelemetry, if your system emits OTLP or OpenTelemetry protocol native telemetry, traces, logs, metrics, you can ingest into OpenSearch. You can also, there's support for the trace analytics functionality, and I'll show it in a bit. In OpenSearch Observability plugin now supports the 𝐂𝐥𝐨𝐿 data. So if you have instrumentation that's based on Jaeger, you can actually use the OpenSearch's built-in trace analytics capabilities as a backend for the Jaeger trace data. And you can use OpenSearch to visualize metrics data from Prometheus. So, yes, please.
Yeah, one question, since you said you have extended tracing from Jaeger, you have support for OpenTelemetry. So do you have native support for distributed tracing with OTL data? And you can visualize it, or?
Yes. You can send the trace data, the spans, into OpenSearch, and you visualize, and I'll show it in a demo in a second. Yes. So you can use this as the backend for the trace data from Jaeger. Yeah. So really, it plays nicely with the cloud native ecosystem, which is something that is, again, I'm personally passionate about it, so I'm glad to see, and we'll see soon with the roadmap that this is definitely a direction that is taken also in the next steps. And we talked about it, so let's see a demo for that. I think it's better than just talking about these things, just to see them. So let's have a look here, and let's do the entire screen. And go back. So let's start with the log analytics. This is an example of a web traffic that is being monitored, your website. So things that you'd expect, again, monitoring the unique visitors, the breakdown into the different operating systems, whether how many Windows, how many OS X, how many this. You can have a look and see the 404s versus the 200s. The errors. You can also see issues that occurred, like events that happened during this time, so you can correlate, okay, something broke and then suddenly I have a drop of this and that, so it's very easy to see these markers. You can see in this example, the unique visitors versus average bytes, so each circle like that would show you the unique visitors, and then you can see what is the traffic in bytes in that specific time window. Scatter graph for the different file types like CSS and GZ and the RPMs and so on that were loaded. Heat map, that one is very, very, for those who monitored websites, that's something you usually stick to see where the hotspots in your website, where's the traffic, where it comes from. So the obvious things that you would monitor for your application. I just mentioned before, so if you look at here, you'll see this is the dashboards, but you can also obviously jump and look at the Discover. This is again, for those who know Kibana, probably this will not be foreign for them. Many people feel comfortable just writing the queries and querying the data in its more raw format. This is the place to go about, and you'll feel very, very comfortable in this area. So that's on the log analytics, and I wanted to show also, and goes back to the question about the trace data and so on. So I think this is a good example, starting actually from top down. So even before the trace data or the spans can actually give you a picture of the relationship between your services in your microservice architecture. So this diagram is automatically generated by the actual traffic, by the actual interaction between the running services in your system. So you can actually, instead of maintaining your own architecture diagram, this is actually what runs in your environment, production or whatever environment you visualize in this monitoring. So, and the nice thing is it overlays also the red metrics, the request rate, error rate, and the duration. So the color scheme, I think, yeah, you can see in the screen the color scheme. You can see in this case it's the duration. You see the ones that are darker are obviously slower. You'll see here, not surprisingly, let me zoom in, the front end of the application, obviously the duration, because it's the entry point for your architecture. It's the conjunction point, and so on. You can see the error breakdown, the request rate, and so on. So it's really nice to see that one. And it's, again, automatically constructed based on the trace data. If your application is instrumented to send, of course, trace data. And then you can have a look and see the different services and zoom into them. And going back to the question about the basic traces, you can definitely see relevant traces. You have obviously information about trace groups and so on. I won't delve into that too much, but the nice thing is that if you like investigating performance issues in your application based on the trace data, then this is the classic thing that you'd probably see whether you use 𝐂𝐥𝐨𝐮𝐿 or other product. You have the same functionality here. Again, we can zoom in to the specific window, and then you can just look at the different spans. You can look at the different patterns, like if you see the staircase, usually something serialized or things like that you can optimize, the classic trace play. So you get that together with the observability plugin in OpenSearch. And let's go back here. How am I with the times? Who's giving me the time? Are we good? Great. So that was on the observability side. And now let's say a word about how it looks like from the architectural perspective. I talked about the components before, but I think just laying it out as an architecture, it's a bit easier. So again, you have the data prepper that can ingest, enrich, transform your data collections. So they're optimized for the analytics side of the house, and then you store it on the OpenSearch clusters, the log, traces, trace data, metric data, time series, so on. And then you can query it. I talked about before, of course, you can query with 𝐊𝐶𝐶. I talked about the PPL, stands for pipe processing language. Essentially, it's a language optimized for observability use cases to be able to query across logs, metrics, and traces, the different pillars. It's called pipe because you can actually pipe different operations together. You can chain operations, so it's actually piping, even with the pipe that you know from the CLI. So it's nice, and as I said, by the way, you have a nice tool to translate natural queries into PPL. So if you find it difficult to set it up, to compose these at the beginning, and then of course you have the observability UI to manage that. So that's the architecture side of things. And talking about the UI, I want to zoom in a bit about the UI, and that's something that is very important. A lot of the focus of the community, and there are people here to testify for that, has gone into the UI side, the dashboard side, really to an area of the user experience, because we all find the sheer volume of observability data overwhelming. And it's very difficult to navigate, definitely to do the RCA, the root cause analysis, and all that. So getting it a bit more easy to navigate was a theme, an overarching theme that a lot of investment went into that. And you see some examples here. The idea is to allow to manage and visualize your data. That's one focus, to identify and respond quickly, to share insights within and across teams. And it's all need to be accessible, simple to manage, permissions, roles, all of that. So really these are the pillars that drove these sorts of themes. You can see here the anomaly detection as an example of something that is AI driven, helping us to do RCAs and so on. I talked before a bit about the ecosystem. Each one, you come with your observability tool set to a specific ecosystem. Okay, you have in your system a specific sources that emit the telemetry data. You have specific storage solutions that you use. You have your log shippers and whatnot. And obviously, you want the tool to be able to play nicely within the ecosystem that you have. So I think it's very nice to see different data sources that are supported, like FluentBit, again, going into the CNCF stack, FluentD, OpenTelemetry, and so on. You have out-of-the-box support pre-made with NGINX. We talked about Prometheus, Spark, InfluxDB, things that, again, you'd expect to have. Obviously, the ecosystem is expanding, and we're looking forward to more contributions to expand. So if you have something that you feel that is missing and you need the integration, please consider donating it and contributing it to the project. But that's definitely a place to make sure that it's the popular tools for collecting, for managing, for visualizing this information are supported. Another area of emphasis for the community has been around performance. And I think you have someone to testify here better than me. Really, and it's natural. And a lot of users come and use OpenSearch for its ability to manage and explore massive amounts of data. And we all know that performance is always at a premium. The impact on user experience, on time to resolution, like in RCA, in observability, and also in terms of cost. Okay, the amount of storage that it takes. If you reduce it, it's money at the end of the day. We heard about the optimizations also in the previous talk. So you see some examples. This is between the 1.0 and the 2.12. A lot of effort has been done here. You see about indexing throughput, query latency, storage disk space, and others really impressive improvements that have been done. This is 2.12. I can tell you that until the latest, which is 2.19, more improvement has been made. So really a lot of emphasis, and actually pretty cool to see. Just came out last week, or even less than a week ago, on Thursday. Trail of Bits did like a 4-month survey. And performance survey, deep survey around OpenSearch as well as Elasticsearch. They did a very comprehensive study. There's the Big 5 benchmark, for those who know, also vector search, and others. So you have the URL. For those who are interested in the performance side, highly recommend to delve into that and look at the data yourselves. They have the raw data shared as well as some of the insights that they have. So interesting to see, and I think very nice results, definitely in some of the elements very, very distinctly for OpenSearch Project. So good work for all the maintainers who made that happen. So that's about the performance, and I want to talk a bit about what's new. So for those, I see that some of you are familiar with OpenSearch. I want to give a bit also about what's new in the recent period. And I mentioned a lot of emphasis has gone into continuing to drive the performance improvements, and also like parallel ingestion processing that you can see here that was released in 2.15, if I'm not mistaken. And also things like the Apache Spark integration that I showed before in the slide, the enhanced anomaly detection, and so on. And also on the UI front, like delivering richer, more user-friendly user experience is still a top priority. And in fact, last year, we released version 2.0 of the Discover experience. So for those who know Kibana, I think there's a leap that was made in terms of this experience. For those who love the Discover type of investigation, you'll find some interesting things. And also, we introduced all new workspaces tools to share and manage your observability data across your team. That's also a very nice addition there. And again, open source, you have the full project roadmap on the GitHub repo, so feel free to have a look yourselves and see what's relevant for you, and feel free to chime in on relevant issues and things like that you relate to. So that's about what's new, and I guess the biggest news that is coming actually next month is the next major release, 3.0. So really looking forward to it. I hope that it's still on track for doing it. Okay? Okay, just making sure. So end of April, that's currently the date. Check it out, major release. We follow semantic versioning in OpenSearch, so the breaking changes are kept for the major releases, and this is why we pull the 2.x until pretty extensively. 2.19 just came out last month, but now the community has decided this is the time to make the next major release. There are several interesting things that are coming. One of them is actually upgrading the Apache Lucene version. That's obviously the underlying library and mechanism. So great news about that, but also lots of other things that, as you can see here, continuous enhancement through performance will carry on, improvements on the OpenSearch dashboards, more optimizations on the observability applications, improvements to the 𝐂𝐥𝐸, for those who asked, for example, the 𝐂𝐥𝐸 implementation and more. So stay tuned on that. It's going to be interesting next month. And where can you follow if you do want to follow the 3.0 or generally? These are the places. So obviously, as I said, the GitHub repo is the place. You can find the project there, the roadmap, but you can also find the relevant issues and so on. We also have a very active Slack workspace where all the discussion takes place, so join the Slack. We also have the forums that I mentioned before. There's a blog and lots of events around. So this QR code, if you scan it, you'll have in one page all the relevant links, all of them in one page, so feel free to scan that one. And talking about events, very excitingly, I'll give you a hint. So here, they're very exciting, specifically for the Berliners, we're going to start a new user group here in Berlin, a local community that actually is going to hold the first meetup this Thursday, so 2 days from now, day after tomorrow. It's going to be hosted here in Berlin, very exciting, because you'll have fellows from your own hometown and region that you can exchange ideas with. So scan here or here after the talk. Big thanks, and so to Eliatra folks or your local champions here that are helping set up this user group here. And by the way, in other places around Germany and outside of Germany. So really exciting to see that. We'll have 2 talks there. We have Chris Friedane, my colleague who runs the global communities, community manager of OpenSearch. So he will talk about the community side, how you can get involved, what you can expect, what you can get out of the community, what you can contribute, and how That's one interesting thing. And 𝐂𝐥𝐨𝐮𝐿, I mentioned before, Jochen here will talk about combining lexical and vector search. I'm actually excited. I'm sorry that I'm not going to stick around to hear that, but he promised me to fill in on the details. He gave me a teasing that. So actually, it's not either or. You can actually combine it, and that's going to be a fascinating talk. So do check it out. And also, it's a meetup. So essentially, it sounds like some of you raised your hands that you're involved with OpenSearch. Do feel free to reach out to the organizers. It's a meetup page, meetup.com page, so it's open for everyone. And you can see, and you can suggest your own topics. Share your own experience with OpenSearch, whether beginner experience, whether I failed to run this, and everything is good because we can learn from each other. That's the power of community. So do make use of the new user group, and I'm looking forward for the next time that I'm coming to see a big and vibrant user group here. Talking about events, I mentioned that last year OpenSearchCon took place in Berlin. This year it's going to take place in Amsterdam, so a bit farther away from you, but still worth a while, 2-day event, bringing together all the OpenSearch community from all around Europe. And actually, you have folks from outside of Europe that are joining, definitely main maintainers and people who lead the activity, even from the US coming over. So it's really the place that you can get firsthand where things stand, what's the roadmap, how we can get involved, how we can influence. I think that's a great opportunity. So if it's of interest to you, again, also next month, lots of occurrences next month, in addition to KubeCon that was already mentioned. So scan the QR code. Registration is open. Pretty cool. And with that, I'd like to thank you. I'm Dr. Horovits. This is the QR code, and thank you very much for listening.